I am continuing in my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am continuing reading in a chronological order, according to event, not according to publication or volume, so I'm skipping around a bit as I move along. We now are finishing the Book of Alma. Last chapter, chapter 63. The wars have ended. Helaman has made a good regulation in the church, brought everything back into order, and then he has passed on. In the 35th year of the judges, Helaman dies. Moroni retired after these wars. He was chief captain for 15 years. He retires, and his son becomes chief captain. His son being probably around 20 years old at the time. Pehoran is in the judgment seat. New judges have been elected, the government has been brought back into order after all the chaos of war, and the people are prospering. So we pick this up now, chapter 63. Shiblon and later Helaman take possession of the sacred records. Many Nephites travel to the land northward. Hagoth builds ships, which sail forth in the West Sea. Moronihah defeats the Lamanites in battle. And it came to pass in the commencement of the 36th year of the reign of the judges over the people of Nephi, that Shiblon took possession of those sacred things which had been delivered unto Helaman by Alma. And he was a just man, and he did walk uprightly before God, and he did observe to do good continually, to keep the commandments of the Lord his God, and also did his brother. And it came to pass that Moroni died also, and thus ended the 36th year of the reign of the judges. And it came to pass that in the 37th year of the reign of the judges, there was a large company of men, even to the amount of 5,400 men, with their wives and their children, departed out of the land of Zarahemla into the land which was northward. And it came to pass that Hagoth, he being an exceedingly curious man, therefore he went forth and built him an exceedingly large ship, on the borders of the land bountiful by the land desolation, and launched it forth into the West Sea by the narrow neck which led into the land northward. And behold, there were many of the Nephites who did enter therein, and did sail forth with much provisions, and also many women and children, and they took their course northward, and thus ended the 37th year. And in the 38th year this man built other ships, and the first ship did also return, and many more people did enter into it. And they also took much provisions, and set out again to the land northward. And it came to pass that they were never heard of more, and we suppose that they were drowned in the depths of the sea. And it came to pass that one other ship also did sail forth, and whither she did go, we know not. And it came to pass that in this year there were many people who went forth into the land northward, and thus ended the 38th year. And it came to pass in the 39th year of the reign of the judges, Shiblon died also, and Corianton had gone forth to the land northward in a ship to carry forth provisions unto the people who had gone forth into that land. Therefore it became expedient for Shiblon to confer those sacred things before his death upon the son of Helaman, who was called Helaman, being called after the name of his father. Now behold, all those engravings which were in the possession of Helaman were written and sent forth among the children of men throughout all the land, save it were those parts which had been commanded by Alma should not go forth. Nevertheless, these things were to be kept sacred and handed down from one generation to another. Therefore, in this year they had been conferred upon Helaman before the death of Shiblon. And it came to pass also in this year that there were some dissenters who had gone forth unto the Lamanites, and they were stirred up again to anger against the Nephites. And also in this same year they came down with a numerous army to war against the people of Moronihah, or against the army of Moronihah, in the which they were beaten and driven back again to their own lands, suffering great loss. And thus ended the 39th year of the reign of the judges over the people of Nephi. And thus ended the account of Alma and Helaman his son, and also Shiblon, who was his son. So there's quite a bit going on here. We have the story of Hagoth and his ships. Apparently Corianton, the youngest son of Alma, went on one of those ships, and all of them got lost at sea. Now the first one did make it up there and back, and then everything after that got lost at sea. Now the theory goes that these are the ancestors of the Polynesian islands. Not unlikely in my opinion, but Corianton was with them. I think he went as kind of the high priest of the group going north. And so those who got lost at sea had the priesthood with them. Now we also read about Moroni's death, and Helaman died in the 35th year. Moroni here dies in the 37th year, no, the 36th year. So he dies a year after Helaman. Now, if he retired when he was 40 in the 31st year, then he dies at the age of 45. Why did he die so young? I think it is because we read back during the war when they took the city of Mulek. In chapter 52, verse 35, it says, Yea, and Moroni was wounded, and Jacob was killed. Jacob being the Zoramite leader of the Lamanites, but Moroni was wounded in battle. And I think he dies of complications of that wound. That's why he dies so young. I think God allows him to die so young in order to save him from the coming disaster that will be the Gadianton robbers. See, with him being 20 years younger than Pehoran, when Pehoran dies, Moroni would still be alive. And he would have to endure, he'd have to watch his nation that he loved so much collapse around him as the Gadianton robbers gain the upper hand, get their foothold into everything. And I think God was sparing him that. He had had a good life. Now, I find it interesting that the records are given, Helaman gives the records to his brother, not to his son. And then when Shiblon dies, just before he dies, he gives them back to Helaman's son, Helaman. So, why did Helaman give them to Shiblon? And then why didn't Shiblon give them to his own son? Why did he give it to Helaman? It's just an interesting little note there. On a final note, we do have this new army of the Lamanites coming in. This is in the 39th year. So 8 years later, the Lamanites once again attempt to invade the Nephites and are repulsed immediately in a resounding battle. The Nephites get a resounding victory over them, being led by Moronihah. Now this is, as I said, 8 years later, so Moronihah is probably close to 30 years old now. But that finishes out the record of Alma and his sons. And next we turn to the book of Helaman, and we will see what happens there.